Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us with our data mining webinar. As you may or may not remember, my name is Aubrey Mollinedo. I am the water justice organizer for the city of Trenton and the Mercer County vicinity with Clean Water Action. And we have here with us Fred Stine from the Delaware Riverkeeper Network. And Fred is going to be doing our presentation for this evening. Just to kind of recap of some of the webinars that we have offered the community. We've done community organizing, the OPRA request, which is the Open Public Records Act. We've also done upstream, downstream, as the pink water stream presentation. We've worked on the MS4s system. And the last presentation that we had 2 weeks ago was the New Jersey GIS mapping with Rowan University. Tonight, we're doing our data mining webinar. And on May 3rd, we hope that you join us for our Policy Map Opportunity Atlas program. And in June, we will have climate change and also green infrastructure with the Green Infrastructure Champions. So we're going to have some special guests from some other organizations working with us. Ms. Kendra McCoy from the Watershed Institute will be doing climate change, and we will have some representative from the Green Infrastructure Champions working with us. And I'm working with a few other people to see what other kind of webinars and trainings that they would like to develop for the organization, for the community, so that it could be used for the betterment of advocacy and community training. So this evening, as I mentioned before, we're going to be doing our policy mapping. What I am going to ask is that everyone that may have questions to use the question and answer box and or put it into the chat. Whatever we cannot address this evening, we will send out an email or with the answers to whatever the questions are. These webinars are being recorded, and we're in the process of developing YouTube links for the past webinars that we've had, and we're moving forward with this. We will be working on getting a link for this one as well. So more than likely, everyone that has registered will be getting an email with all of the links at some point once we're finished with everything. So I thank you again for joining us. This is a very important session that we're going to be having this evening. And don't be ashamed to ask any questions. Okay, I'll be monitoring the question and answer in the chat box. Fred, thank you very much. And now it's in your hands.
Thank you. Thanks, Aubrey. And welcome everyone. Thanks for taking your time and coming to our training. Aubrey works for Clean Water Action. I work with the Delaware Riverkeeper Network, both environmental advocacy organizations. And what we view these advocacy trainings is to put more tools in people's toolboxes so they can be more effective voices and advocates for the waterways in their backyard. So it not only does it bring more issues to our attention, which is excellent, but it empowers everyone who gains these skills. It empowers them to take a more active role themselves, because we're only the battles are many, and with many people we have better success rates if we have more advocates out there. So I appreciate you all coming. I'm going to launch right into my New Jersey DEP data mining program webinar tonight. It's fairly short, but I want to make sure that we cover all the bases, and we'll leave time at the end for Q&A. Data mining is, well, let me share my screen. How about that? How does that look, Aubrey? Oh,
Enlarge it some.
What's that?
Enlarge it. Open the screen out. the box.
What did I do here?
I think you have to click the box, Fred, to make it open up the page.
I'm not seeing the box. It's terrible.
But right next to the arrow that you have up there with the minimizer. On the right, up at the top. Bear with us as we have our little technical difficulty.
Resume share. That's maybe what it is. But I'm wondering if I have the correct, I'm going to stop sharing and seeing if I had two different versions of the PowerPoint opened. Screen share. Nope, that's it.
Now just enlarge the screen up at the right-hand corner, right there.
That's where it is, right there. That's enlarged.
Okay. Did you do this on PowerPoint?
Yeah, well, and I saved it. Yeah, I did. And I saved it as a PDF. And this is the PDF that I'm showing.
Okay, so maybe open up the screen by pulling the angles on the sides.
But if I open up the
Don't
PowerPoint
worry
itself,
then don't worry, then just slide the screen along the way that you need to do.
okay, this shows the same presentation. There's just a little bit more busyness on the perimeter. I'll just launch right in. So data mining is a DEP website that provides information and reports, making it available to the general public. It's providing a lot of information on permitting, land use development applications, environmental brownfields and hazardous waste sites, a lot of information, and we're going to be going through all that today. But before I jump into it, I just want to emphasize the fact that there's a lot of information. Data mining is one of those programs where you can easily go down the proverbial rabbit hole and to try and find information. I often think of this when I think of the data mining and the information we're going to be sharing tonight. It's kind of like if you walk into what I always do is when I walk into my family room and look down and see 3 different remotes there, and I'm trying to figure out how the heck, and I never remember what does what. But if you spend some time with those data, if you're watching the Sixers win the first round, perhaps, and I'm using those remotes on a more frequent basis, it sticks with me. And I think the same is going to be true with data mining. The information I'm presenting tonight is really an introduction to the vast information, the vast scope of information that's available on the DEP website. So the purpose of tonight is just for you to understand that this information is there. There's help in the process, and you don't have to remember everything tonight. So I want to show you where the source of this information, that it exists, how to find specific information and reports that you're interested in, and know that it gets easier as you click and explore the website as you go along. And the very first slide, it emphasizes that there's a help menu. As soon as you go in and you do your internet search for NJDEP data miner, this is what you'll see. And at the top, you can see, and I have it circled in red, there's a help screen. I mean, there's a help area there, and it doesn't tell you everything. But what it does do is there's 3 different videos, short videos, 2 minutes or 3 minutes long, and it goes over some of the how-tos of the data mining and how to find your way through this process. So we'll be providing you this information tonight. Data Miner has a help section, and we're recording this, and we'll be sending you a link. So with those three different instructionals, you should be launched off in a good direction to start learning and using Data Miner. So Data Miner is broken down into 3 different sections. You can see I have it circled here. I tried to do that because I think sometimes the slides can be busy when you first flip them on. So the circle is there. You can search by the site, the specific site. You can search by the category, and you can search by the published documents. The search by site, under the search by site, you can find the specific site or the certified licensed individuals regulated by DEP in your county or your municipality, and obtain inspection results, status of permit applications, registrations, and other environmental data.
So Fred, real quick, just to take it down like to a whole nother different level of learning. So let's say if I have an issue in my area, there's a site where there's some remediation work being done, maybe a pile of dirt has been sitting there, then I can search it by the site?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And there's some cross-referencing too. And yes, so the short answer is yes, you can. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. So the first thing we'll do is I want to show you a little bit about by going and looking for that pile of dirt. If you have, or if you, I know in Camden recently, residents got upset because there was a junkyard behind an 8-foot high fence and nobody could see into until they started looking and looking for information on the different websites that told them that there were some things going on there that should be of concern, and they brought DEP in, and it started a process where it's being cleaned up. So it's a great tool to have to identify those sorts of situations.
And Fred, to even bring it to the city of Trenton, we did a presentation for the East Trenton Collaborative because there was a pile of dirt that they were concerned about in their area as well.
That's right. And yep, and they were able to engage with New Jersey DEP. And found that there was a process and it was underway, but that had to have been, it brought in a lot of benefits, because not only did it make sure that DEP recognized that now this was on the community's radar, but it also made the community feel more comfort, raised their comfort level, because now they knew DEP was engaged in a process to take care of that pile of dirt.
And they're still working on it, but thank you, Fred.
Yes. Yep. So under search by site, you can see the second circle down from the top. It's that search by site is broken down into 4 different ways to search for a site. It can be the location, either by searching the county or the municipality, the name of the business or the entity that owns that piece of property, the ID that New Jersey DEP gives every site. They have an ID number, and so you could search that way, and then advanced. And I'll go into each of those as we go along, as we move along. So I'm going through the step-by-steps on how you do a location search, because this is what I think most people will use. But here you can see that under search by county and municipality, you click on the pull down menu in the top circle, and I circled Mercer County and Trenton. And then down below, include in the results, you can put in the specific sites, or you can put in all regulated entities or the licensed certifications and regulated individuals. You can, but it'll automatically default on sites only. So that's usually what I'll go to is, so this should, in the next step, we'll bring in information about those types of properties in the city of Trenton. And at the bottom of the screen, there's an enter button, a green enter button, and that you can't actually, I think it's cut off because I'm looking at, we're using this shrunken version. I apologize for that. But so the upper circle that you can see, this, we're still in the search by site, Mercer County, Trenton, sites only. And I circled just one, you can see over on the right-hand side underneath the circle, there's 101 pages. I don't know if you can, Aubrey, can you see my cursor floating around?
Yeah, I see that it says page 1 of 101.
Page of 101. So there's a lot of sites in the city of Trenton in this search. So this is just page 1 that, and I just circled one site to follow it through. So as an example, as a tutorial, and I circled the 100 Riverview Plaza site. And now this is in the data miner because there was an issue on that on 100 Riverview Plaza, and we'll follow it along. The other important piece of information on this page is the circle with the 3 little images that's circled in the upper right hand corner. The little man with holding a clipboard, in the live data miner process, you would actually, when you put your cursor over top of that little man, it'll say inspections. This will click and you'll get all the places where DEP has inspected one of the sites in the 101 pages of different sites in the city of Camden. So that would be Trenton, right. And then the second one, the little gavel, is enforcement actions. These are where DEP went and inspected and found a violation, and now there's an enforcement action underway. And the little exclamation point in the triangle to the far right, those are violations. Those are where they've gone and they've done and they've looked and found a violation. Now, the fact that Trenton, and every town has a list just like this. If we could have put in Camden County, Haddon Township, my town, we would have had a list. Phillipsburg, Warren County, we would have had a list. Probably my town is smaller, so it wouldn't have 101 pages. But the point is not all of these notations, not all of these businesses or entities that are having problems are terrible, or good people are going to hell in the handbasket, so to speak. I mean, some of them are just like in East Trenton, the library that is becoming a new center for the community. They had a leaking oil tank, and they're fixing that and repairing it and remediating it. But the East Trenton library is on this list. But there's also big ones like the Trenton wastewater. There's many other larger businesses that do have some serious issues. They're on this list too. So big and small are on this list. So for the purpose of this, I clicked on violations, and I went to see what violations I could find in the city of Trenton. And this, again, this is just one example of the next, how data miner is allowing me to dig a little deeper into the information that's available for a community, for an individual, for people who want to know what's going on at a specific site in their neighborhood, in their community. So here, what you're looking at here is a report in data miner from one company that had 3 violations. And this gives you a summary of what those violations are all about. And if you read in the circle, these violations, while important, and you want them to have a clean bill of health, so to speak. If you look at them, the first one in the first row is they left 5-gallon containers that had chemicals in it, hazardous chemicals in it. They left 9 of them without the lids on them. So of course, without the lids on them, you have volatile organics going up into the atmosphere. It creates an unsafe situation in the workspace, but also, you know, in the community if this happens wide range. So they have regulations that say, you know, once you're done with those 5-gallon containers of chemicals, you have to put the lid on them. Well, during an inspection, they must have found some that didn't have them. The second row, again, it was 15 5-gallon containers, and they weren't properly labeled. You know, again, it's not the sky is falling. These are important regulations, but you can see that the scope of this violation is, you know, I'm glad that they caught it. I'm glad they're fixing it, but it's you know, it's a relatively small incident, a relatively small violation. And then the last one on the last row, failure of large quantity generator to ensure personnel take part in an annual review. So, you know, if you work in a company like that, you're probably required to do training on a regular basis, and they found that they weren't doing that, the employees weren't getting that training, so that was a violation. And you can see in the middle of the screen, each of those have been satisfied. So they fixed those violations. And again, this is just one simple example of the information that you can find in Data Miner. And it's what, so it's important. Not all of them are going to be as relatively simple and not so serious as these. And that's why, as a community member, whether you live in Trenton or you live in Haddonfield or Hamilton Township or West Windsor, any community, you could go in there and you're just interested in, well, what's happening in, you know, are there violations occurring in my town? And you can research that and provide that information, and maybe you find the violations are happening at one company on a far too frequent basis, and you can as an informed community member, you can get involved and raise this to your elected officials, or, you know, or whoever the entity is. You could reach right out to the company, but I would go through the elected officials. But it's you know, with that information, you can go and you just make your community just a little bit safer. You make the Assunpink Creek, if that's your watershed, make that just a little bit healthier.
Fred, I really like this, these programs that the DP provides to help us dig a little bit deeper to find out what's happening in our communities, because oftentimes these areas are not areas of focus that we would normally look into as a community leader. Some of us don't know about this information. So that's why this webinar is very important, to get the information out to the community. If there's something maybe that is a little bit pressing somewhere along down the line, and you've had this you know, introduction into how to navigate the DP, or just how to get in contact with us so that we can help you, you know, reiterate how to go about, you know, getting this information. It's important because not everybody has this knowledge. Not everyone knows that they could dig a little bit deeper to see what's really going on in the community. And if you look large scale on some of the issues that some of us may have, like we might have asthma, a lot of cases with asthma or autism or different health concerns that we may have with our children. And we're trying to find, you know, like what are some of the root causes, what's happening in our environment. This is one of the areas that we can look into to get a little bit more clarity and information on what's happening in our communities.
Well said. you're 100% right. I mean, it's again, and this is an introduction. So hopefully at the end of the day, you'll know, at least I know data mining that I can go, if it's 3 months from now or a year from now, you'll say, I think, that's something I want to look into. And I can go and look at this webinar or the help links on the data mining. And it provides you with that kind of empowerment that you can then take it to the next step. Digging down a little deeper, I flip back to the search by site, and this is the Riverview Plaza report that I showed you earlier. And you can see on the left-hand side of each of the line items, each of the listings they have, there's a little plus, a little green plus sign. That indicates there's more information there. So you can click on the little plus sign and it'll give you more search results. And I did that in this slide. I clicked on the little the little green dot, and it comes up, and all it talks about is the 100 Riverview Plaza is in this report for site remediation, meaning there was contamination of the soil and it's being cleaned up, or that was the issue. It doesn't necessarily mean it was cleaned up. We have to dig a little deeper. So that's what I did next. I started digging a little deeper. This is the same report, but then you go over to the right-hand side and you can see right where it has under reports in those grayed out boxes, it has enforcement actions by site. And each line has enforcement actions by site. Well, you click on the little down arrow there and it opens up this additional menu, this drop-down menu that shows you it inspects, it shows you the inspection reports by site, in a time frame, the land use site information, maps, permits by time frame, enforcement sites. So here again, it allows you to dig down just a little deeper into what's going on with that particular site. I mean, yeah. So I clicked on map this site, and here's an interesting thing. It took me out of data mining and took me to another tool that New Jersey DEP offers, and that's the Geo Web. And it takes you to this. Now this actually is, it's in the city of Trenton. It's in East Trenton. The 100 Riverview apartment would have been right on the waterfront on the Delaware River in downtown section. I used this image just because it had a little bit more variety in what we were looking at, but it would show you the same information. There'd be a little blue triangle next to the Riverview site, and it would give you in that white box in the middle of the screen that says NJ EMS sites. In this particular, it tells you the property owner, it tells you the site ID, which is important information if you want to do it, because you can search that way. And it gives you the latitude and longitude, and there's also more information as you pull down that slider on the side of that NJ EMS sites box. You can see it says 1 of 2. So you can, again, this is just another way of drilling down and getting more information that's available. And this, excuse me, this just in order to find the maps information under data miner, it just takes you over to the Geo Web. So in the, I'll scroll back. If you click on the little blue turquoise, or the little turquoise box, you can see they're all over the place here, where there were these are other items that are on that Geo data mining list. it can take you to this data mining report, and it tells you what the site is, the site ID identification number, and it shows what it gives you more information about the program that's handling it. In New Jersey, DEP is the hazardous waste program. It talks to you about who the property owner is, DB Realty, and their address. And then over on the right-hand side of this, it gives a listing of all these important reports. If you lived, and this site is in East Trenton, it's actually that site there that you can see it's DB Realty. This takes you here, and it goes into the enforcement actions. It goes into the inspections, the outstanding billing, pending permit progress, permits by timeline. Each of these clicks is a new report that you can open up, and they aren't lengthy reports. They're summaries of what's going on in each of those categories. So you can identify a specific site, whether it's a pile of dirt, whether it's a junkyard behind an 8-foot fence, whether it's an old gas station. Any of those things will give you this information if you start working your way through the data miner. Now, that was the search by site through locations. Here is this is the portal that I usually look at when I'm going in to look at look for either a development project, if somebody's looking to build solar panels in an area, or build houses or a warehouse or something like this. Typically, if a development project is submitted to the zoning or planning board, I have a block and lot number, and I know the municipality, I know the town. So I go and I do the advanced version. Again, under the search by site, you do an advanced search. It zeroes in on the specific piece of property right away and gives you that information. So I'm going to take a step back here, because in one of those tutorials that we saw, a lot of times you'll be clicking along in doing this, and you'll want to go back to the screen you just were at. And a lot of times you'll think, oh, I'll just go in the back button in the upper left-hand corner of my computer screen. And that's not how Data Miner works. And this is something that that I stumbled on and kept closing out and had to go back in with a new search and start all over again. But I wanted to point out to you how you do this, how you go back to the previous screen. It's in the circle, in the red circled area up there. You can see it says home, search by site, search results. If I wanted to go back and say, you know what, I don't want to do this search by site anymore, I want to go back and maybe do search by category or there's something else. Here you go back in what they call the breadcrumb links, because it allows you to trace your steps back. And so what you would do is use this toolbar, I guess, or command links, and I would go back, I would just click on home or click on search by site. And that will allow you to take a step back and go back, and maybe you clicked on a button and it's not going to take you where you want to go, so you want to go back without going all the way out of Data Miner. This is I just wanted to make sure I shared this with you, that it's called the breadcrumb links, and you'll hear this again if you listen to one of those help tutorials in the beginning of Data Miner.
Fred, real quick,
Yeah.
I just have 2 questions. Does this site only provide information that the DEP regulates? And does Data Miner only provide information for sites that the DEP regulates? Okay, so it's the same question. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yes.
all they do. Yep. It is if it's a if it's a wastewater treatment plant or an incinerator or a gas station, or a housing development that has a stormwater permit, it will be in this.
Thank you, Fred. And we'll talk a little bit more briefly, I guess, at the end, if we have some more time, about the other mapping programs. Just give like a brief synopsis of it, just in case some of our viewers are interested in knowing what those were about.
The Geo Web.
Yeah, the GIS. Yeah, just briefly at the end. Yeah.
Okay. So so now I that was it as far as search by site. So I want to cover, and I want to cover the search by category and the search published documents. Those are the two other categories of the data miner. For the purpose of getting ready for tonight's webinar, I was going through these, and search by category has been coming back like error documents for several weeks now. Category that says search by category provides access to DEP reports on many different environmental media and subjects. And unfortunately, it seems to be not functioning correctly, because if you click on search by category and it goes to the next screen, you'll get a line that says an error has occurred. So right now that error, that part of this website it doesn't provide as much information. That may change, but it doesn't. Again, it talks about environmental media and subjects, so not necessarily to specific properties or parcels that people might be interested in. So I'm going down to the next one. So since category is not working correctly, we'll go to search public documents, published documents. And when you click on this, you can see there's a series of four different commands that you can use. The permit dashboard, the compliance and enforcement, and the stewardship reports. You know, in looking at those and scrutinizing those give you the big picture of what information the state, excuse me, DEP is looking at statewide. So the permit dashboard breaks down all the different permits that they're handling throughout the state, and it gives you charts and graphs. And to me, it seemed like it was a good source of information if I was an academician or someone who wanted to see what DEP as a whole was focusing on, not necessarily what an individual who's concerned about their public, the health of what's going on in their own backyard. It doesn't cover that. So both the permit dashboard, compliance and enforcement stewardship reports, I found that, gives good big picture information, but I'm going to sidestep it for the purpose of our presentation tonight. The NJPDES Excel reports, however, do provide valuable information for us. And so I took a look at that, and this is almost to the conclusion of the presentation, but what this presents to you in when you click on the NJPDES report. The NJPDES program is a program from the state that protects ground and surface water quality by assuring the proper treatment and discharge of wastewater and stormwater from various types of facilities and activities. So it covers stormwater management, and it covers wastewater discharges to our surface waters. And so this is an NJPDES. So if you're a company that discharges to a stream or river or creek of the state, or you have a stormwater flow leaving your property, you have a permit, an NJPDES permit. And this part of the search engine for data miner helps you understand that and look a little closer. So this first report is these are active dischargers in your, I have here in your town, but of course these are listed. These are listed in a numerical order by the PI number. Actually, that's no, by the NJPDES number. But you can see here that each municipality is listed. This is an Excel spreadsheet, and you can see Linden City is the first one. Saraville Borough is the second line. And each of these entities has an active permit. The very first line is Tremley property, Tremley property 2 and 3. And if you go across, you find out that it's an industrial, they have an industrial wastewater discharge. So if you lived in the city of Trenton, what you might be interested in doing is taking a look at this spreadsheet and identifying all the different dischargers that are in the city of Trenton, and identify them. And then if you're in East Trenton, say, or a different section of Trenton or wherever, you'd identify, well, and it provides the address. So it gives you the address. You're saying, well, that particular discharger is discharging into the Assunpink Creek or the Mill Creek or Myrie Run or any of the different waterways that you're particularly interested in. And it allows you to look into and find out, are they complying with their permits? You can take this information and then go to one of the other pages that we covered. You could put in the permit or the PI number, and then do a search on Tremley property 2 and 3 and find out, are they complying with their permit? And again, it allows you to get this information. And if they are, that's a great thing. As a community, you might find out that they're doing a great job. And it may be something that you want to create better relations with that discharger or that company that's in your community, and make that a positive, build relationships with. But you might find that they're not complying and they're in violation of their permits, and find out what you can go about and do with that through New Jersey DEP. Find out what they're doing in order to bring them back into compliance. And this is active. These are the dischargers to just the surface waters. The one prior was all the dischargers. This is the surface water dischargers. So this is a sub list, and this website or this report had a lot more information on it. There were a lot more columns in it. So I shrunk it down and hid some of the ones that I thought would be less valuable for this presentation anyway. So it's shrunk down a little bit, but you can see here, it has the same Tremley property in that first row going across. But here again, this report provides facility and permit and monitoring location information for all active NJPDES surface permits. So again, it provides similar information. I just thought it would be important to know that in this category of dashboard, where it has the Excel reports, you have 2 different spreadsheets, and one overlaps the other. But again, it would be, if you were looking to look at what's going on in Trenton or what's going on in the Myrie Run watershed or the Assunpink or the Pennsauken, you could utilize the information in both of these. So that takes us through the New Jersey data mining website. it gives you a broad brush, stroke of information that I hope was understandable and not overwhelming. I tried to make sure I presented this information where you knew that you weren't gonna grasp it and retain it all tonight. That you just know that that information is available and that there's some helplines, not only on the data mining website, but through this webinar when we upload it to a YouTube, and then you being here tonight also will help too. So I'm going to come to a conclusion with that. If anyone has questions, ask them now. If you think of it after we hang up and you want to reach out to Aubrey and I, please, there's our contact information. Thank you very much. Thanks, Aubrey.
Thank you, Fred. And I think that, having seen the other mapping programming, I think when you piece each training together, it gives you a full spectrum of how to get the most detailed information that you need possible. When we looked at the GIS system mapping of 2 weeks ago with Rowan University, we were able to see the flooding, the open green spaces, see where and be able to just pinpoint where it is that we have more flooding from the Assapean Creek and the Delaware River and things of that nature. And we were able to see the watershed. And now looking at surrounding our community, especially and more particularly in Trenton and Mercer County, we are able to now, with this data mining, now look into, well, what are the areas of concern in our communities? And did somebody else think it was a concern also, right? Is the DEP aware of this? Like we mentioned about the East Trenton Collaborative coming together and trying to figure out what that pile of dirt was and how the tarp fell off of it, right? And then they were able to see, well, there was supposed to have been some kind of attention put to that. And the city and the DEP, they work together to try to abate these problems and try to make sure that these things are handled. And the community needs to know that, because they need to know that there's a level of accountability on the municipality's part, on anyone working in and doing any kind of advocacy work and training, that we're aware of these venues, and also with the community that is really concerned about these areas. So I think once we have all of our training down pat, we could kind of put a big picture puzzle together and say, well, this is really how we can effectively work together to get this information that we need, right? These are our resources, our toolbox, like you said.
Yep.
So this is just another puzzle piece. And I think at the end, I think we'll be able to see the big picture of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and some people may get drawn to the digital mapping element, which has some of that same information, but other people might be spreadsheet people. And it's good that there's some overlap there, because then, people will go and look for information in a medium or media that they're comfortable with. And certainly maps are important. They're good for visualizing. That's how a lot of us learn and gather our information. But a lot of people like to look at the data, and that's what data mining allows us to do.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think also, us being on Zoom, it has its ups, its pros and its cons, right? So we're able to get together even though we're still in the midst of a pandemic, and people are trying to adjust and make the time available to learn about different things while we're still maybe not able to really get together.
Mhm.
But then the other thing too is if we were in person, we would be able to do a more comprehensive training where we would be able to show how each piece linked with one another and act it out and have like listening sessions as well. So, you know, I'm encouraged nevertheless, right, to get this information out into our communities and to help us to strengthen our voice and so that we can be proactive, right?
Mhm.
I always mention how coming from Brooklyn, I never had these opportunities to learn such intricate pieces of protecting my environment.
Right,
You know, we didn't have where we didn't have the ability to be involved in your municipality. Everything is on a higher scale. When you think of city, you think commissioners, you think of a larger, a more grandiose scale, right?
right,
But what I love about New Jersey is that you have community activism, you have municipalities that are engaged, you have counties that are engaged, and you have the state that's engaged. And it's a more comprehensive picture when you think about it compared to the big picture of like, let's say New York City or other big cities, right?
right.
That while we have urbanization in there, we don't know how to get in contact with the people. They're not as close and relative to us,
That's
you
a
know?
rule. Yep, yep,
But out here in New Jersey, you have that opportunity to get involved, right? You have that ability to learn about the different programmings through the state and what's available because the state has a pretty comprehensive website that gives you these help instructions, and also these you know, it's available for data mining, and we're going to be looking at policy mapping next week. So, you know, like I said, I stay encouraged. I thank you for all of your expertise. I thank you for taking the time out of your day to really just kind of give us the like the broad strokes of what it is that we need to know when it comes down to really getting our hands in the mix of community activism. Saying something with your mouth is one thing, but now taking and teaching people how to find the information for yourself. It's just like, you know, you could feed a man, right? You could
yeah.
give a man a fish sandwich, right? But if you teach him how to fish, he could eat forever, right? So it's the same thing. It's the same concept. So again, I thank you. And I thank you for those that stuck around and participated with us. And again, those that are have not been able to log on today, this link will be made available to them. So if no one has any questions, we're going to close out this evening. Any final thoughts or comments, Fred?
No, I'm excited about this program where we're building a toolbox and providing this, because you never know
Mhm.
how each individual skill can help someone spot something and make something better. I'm excited about it.
Absolutely. Thank you again for the hard work and all that you put into it. Um, Jared and said thank you, very useful. Thank you, Jared. And so everybody have a good night, okay? Enjoy your family time. Bye-bye.
Yep. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you.